Good afternoon, humans of the internet. Welcome to Triple S Live. Let me get the thing on the screen. There we go. Welcome to Triple S Live for December 29th, 2022. 2022 rolling to a close. 2023 is upon us. I'm here with Cybsidian, and Moontag should be joining us momentarily. How are you doing, Cyb?
I'm doing good.
How's your,
We also have a show going with Max and I that we recorded last night.
Yeah, that's live now.
Soon. Yep. So we're not going to be talking about a lot of the same things. Not a lot. We are going to be obviously talking about some of the same things, but not a lot of the same things. So
yeah, and I mean,
check out both, please.
I've only listened to the first half of this week's Maximum News. That's all I had time for before we got started here. So I might mention some of the same things, but that's okay because you can hear me talk. I'm in charge. I can mute everybody else, so, you can't stop me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And for those of you who are watching live today, of course, say hi in the live chat. Tell us how your Christmas holiday of whatever type you celebrate. Tell me how your holiday's going, what traditions you follow that you have that you've enjoyed this past couple of weeks. And tell us what you're planning to play in early 2023. That's what we're going to be focusing on today, is mostly what's going to be coming out in the first few months of 2023. Although I do have, I've sort of jotted down a list of my more anticipated games from everything that's coming out in 2023, a list of things that have confirmed release dates in 2023, and then also what games that we think are coming out in 2023. But of course, anything can happen. As we've learned over the past couple of years, there's no release date is set in stone, for sure. Wish Moon was here to talk about Christmas and stuff. So how was your holiday, Seb?
It's good. It's still going. We have very long holidays in my family, which is great, which is fine.
Just stretch out the family get-togethers for weeks on end.
Yeah. It's basically it's almost a week straight with only a few breaks, and this is one of the breaks in between.
And
that's due to the fact that there's so many birthdays in and around Christmas. So that's just how that worked.
Yeah. Yes, I too have a nephew with a birthday that's close to Christmas. So that's certainly added an event or two. Talk to us in the live chat. Tell us how your holidays have gone. Just kind of waiting as people trickle in here to get into the meat and potatoes of the gaming stuff we're going to be talking about. But I guess we might as well get started. Is there an ETA on Moontag?
The computer has had a reset fit again.
The computer, really? Oh, geez.
Yeah. So this is why we're trying to figure out new computer device for her.
All right. Well, tell us about your most anticipated upcoming games for 2023 and why. Because we don't want to just. And that's what we'll be talking about as well. We don't want to just, this is not just a list fest. We want to dive into...
Not a list fest. We're going to be talking about games that we and the community are interested in, primarily as far as content goes. Mm-hmm. So, I am very, very interested in a couple of games that are guilty pleasures or things that I play a lot. Typically just as in between doing writing and stuff like that, and so they're not streaming games. There's a lot of indie games that I play that aren't streaming games as well, because there's not a lot of content there. A lot of the indie games that I play are early versions, and I do end up submitting a lot of bug reports and stuff like that, and obviously that is not something that is conducive to good entertainment.
You don't want to stream Bug Report Simulator 2023? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. No, this is something when I was doing actual bug reports as a actual playtesting as a little side job many years ago. there were a lot of guys who came in. They were expecting to be playing a full-fledged game, and this one guy was like having this conniption fit because he was playing a pink square. Now the pink square was like, it was a pink square with a red X, like a red X blocks around it, because that denoted one of the characters that you were supposed to unlock.
Right. Yeah. So it's a placeholder graphic. Yeah,
it's a placeholder graphic, and he got so upset that he couldn't be playing the new version, that he quit, because he was like, how, like, they should be paying me to play their newest games that are like ready to go. And it's like, that's not how this works. If they're ready to go, they're released. Like you don't understand. There's some games where there's a placeholder graphic for like a main thing in the game for like 95% of the playtesting of that game.
Yeah.
It only gets fixed in the final version.
Well, it'd be horribly inefficient to wait until you've got all the graphics in place to start playtesting some of your mechanics. Like, that would just...
Exactly. And that's why some characters back in the day would get like weird nicknames, like Green Square. And they're talking about a particular character in the game, and Green Square. Why do you call him Green Square? Well, that's the nickname that everybody had for him, because his name kept changing. So therefore because his name wasn't like set in stone, only the placeholder graphic that was there, and then that got changed twice because they really didn't know where to take the guy. So for the longest time, he was just a green square, and when you go into conversations, he would just be a green square, and you'd be talking to Green Square. So in and around the office, everybody calls him Green Square. So it's really funny, but yeah, thankfully that's not.
Sorry,
that's not stuff you typically do.
This is reminding me of you remember the original Thief game, which is 100% first person, right? They had an actual character model for Garrett, the main character. I'm trying to look it up now because it was hilarious. Because you never see it, right? You never actually see it, but you can if you go into the... there's like a bonus level after you beat the game that shows it to you. And I'm looking for a picture of it now, and it's not coming up here. It's hilarious. He's basically just a stick with a goofy looking face on it that looks like it was drawn with a crayon or something. So I remember it. Hey, Arturo. Oh yes, Happy New Year to you as well. Yes, Moontag should be here shortly. She's having computer troubles. So, all right, well, let's get into talking about the games. So, Saib, what do you want to talk about first?
Well, let's talk Deliver Us Mars, because that's one that I'm curious how many people have seen this and how many people are interested in playing this from the community.
It is it's fairly new to me, but I was researching it a bit yesterday. It is a sequel to... Just make sure this tab is muted. Last stream we had a whole bunch of issues with sound just randomly playing. So it looks like a very immersive, story-rich kind of a sci-fi game, but it looks like it has some like Tomb Raider-like parkour, climbing stuff, swinging around on vines kind of gameplay to it as well, right? Now, I don't know how in depth that's exactly this shot right here. This could be a picture of young Lara Croft with the two climbing axes here, right? So yeah, it looks interesting from that perspective. I think that the primary reason to play this game will be the story. I don't know that it's going to be necessarily action-packed gameplay, but I don't know. Maybe there'll be Martians jumping out, but it's the sequel to a game called Deliver Us the Moon, which I believe, I watched some gameplay and it looks more like a single player PvE kind of a thing. Some horror elements, some suspense. I could be getting it. I could be completely misinterpreting it, but I don't think I didn't see any spots where there's like aliens attacking you. or anything like that. It's more of a adventuring through an environment, trying to survive, trying to solve these mysteries, and figure out what happened on the space station, kind of a thing. Have not played the game. Very interested to play it. This is the sequel, Deliver Us Mars. Looks interesting to me. What do you think about it?
I think it looks very interesting. I don't know how I missed the original, because it is that like realism thing that works quite good, and I like that kind of idea. It's like it's a solid idea, and I also think that it's like the whole climbing thing and like the moving around thing. It's slightly more realistic because this is Mars and you only weigh like 80%, 70% of what you weigh on Earth. So long as your muscle is the same, you could do a lot more. It's not as bad as the moon. The moon is like, I think you weigh like what, 50, like only 40% of what you normally weigh. I gotta
I'll look it up on.
But yeah, that's super interesting as a concept. Mars is a great idea for like doing these kinds of games.
If you weigh 100 pounds on Earth, you only weigh 38 pounds on Mars. So it's 38%.
So it's only like wow. Really?
Mars is a lot smaller than Earth.
I didn't think it was that small. Good Lord.
Also, hi, I just made
Hey,
it.
Moon. Okay, we'll get you up here.
We just made it.
So I can talk to someone interesting now that Moon's... Sorry.
Woohoo! Space and stuff.
Yes, so we're talking about Deliver Us Mars. Have you looked at this game at all, Moontag?
Yes, I did. It looks fun. Because, like, I've been into the whole space exploration thing lately, because I've been binge playing Ixion. And so this one looks like a lot of fun because I actually get to go to the surface rather than manage a spaceship.
And you know what? Like, a good space game can just be fantastic.
Yes.
All right. Oh, there you are. I can see you. Can everybody else see you? Yeah, yes, you're on the screen now. Everybody say hi to Moontag.
Hi. I made it.
No,
my computer was flat. No.
Size of Mars compared to Earth. Like,
yeah,
Mars is this an actual? It's like half the diameter. It looks like almost judging by this graphic here. I don't know. Oh yeah, it's just over half the diameter of Earth, but of course, in terms of mass. It's way small. Like
that's right. They're missing atmosphere and oceans.
Well,
that's right.
No, I don't think it's that so much as it is like you picture a bowling ball, and then picture a bowling ball that's half as wide. It's half as wide, but it's like it doesn't have half the mass. It has way less than half the mass.
Yeah, but it's like only got like 10% of the atmosphere or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know how much that contributes to its mass. Like the atmosphere on Earth is like this thin, tiny little layer on the outside.
I really don't think, and hello, Rise Against Them. I really don't think we're ever going to be able to actually, like, I don't think we're going to be able to terraform Mars as it currently is. Like, for sure not. Like,
I see a cat's
as it currently
butt.
is, and that it has the stuff on it that it currently has. Like, it needs so much more mass that I don't think, in order to be like actually like, something that can hold down that stuff. Then you have to figure out the whole like, magnetic core doesn't exist, so you got to figure out that.
If I remember my science podcasts, I believe Mars actually had lakes and oceans and an atmosphere, and that just all got blasted off by cosmic rays and crap, or just for whatever. I'm not a scientist, but
And it used to have a magnetic core, and the magnetic core seemed to completely die out like it wasn't even that long ago. Like in the grand scheme of things, it was only like yesterday, but that was in I believe it was like, if you go back like 20, 50,000 years, you'd still see like the very remnants of it, the
Yeah.
magnetic system like just starting to fade. And it may have been sooner, actually. It may have been about 10,000 years ago that there was still enough of a magnetic core, like it was still prevalent and it still had like some serious stuff, but now it doesn't really, like, it has this extremely weak, almost imperceptible magnetic core. And that's one of the biggest things that we need to figure out. Same thing with Venus. Same problem there. It's like the magnetic core of a planet dying is probably one of the most like serious things that can happen to a planet, and it's also one of the most important things as to what can we do to restart that, or if we can't restart it, if that's just not in the cards as far as like pursuable technology, then your next best option is you set up a space platform or station or whatever you want to call it that exists always between the planet and the sun, and you create a massive magnetic wave there that works essentially as the exact same thing that a magnetic shield does for the
to
for the
blast
planet.
off all, like to protect you from all of a lot of the harmful particles and stuff. Yeah.
And then that keeps the atmosphere and the that keeps a lot of stuff safer. And it's like that we have to figure that out before we could do that. The only other option, I've seen a couple other options. One is you gather up a ton of meteors,
because that's a simple task.
The name and language. But you go out, you get about half of Mars's metric weight in preferably highly magnetic meteorites, and you just bombard the planet with them. You drop them not at super fast. You literally tow them to the planet's surface, or to the atmosphere's surface, and you just drop them on the planet at regular gravity speed. And you just do that over and over and over again until you increase the total mass of the planet by another 50% of itself.
50%. Good night, man. That would and what would that do to the planet's orbit, though?
Well, the orbit shouldn't change with that. Mass doesn't really change orbit. Like,
well, yeah, because then the gravitational pull would be greater from between the sun would have, if there's more mass there, there's more gravity between the sun and Mars.
But how much more mass would be pulled out of effect?
Well, that's I mean,
from the things that I remember studying, it was like that wasn't the biggest issue, because
I think
as far as it getting closer to the sun, it could do that, and this would be a gradual thing done over the course of probably about 25 years.
I mean, maybe maybe over that period,
all this stuff to settle, basically.
In any case, that seems like that's a massive undertaking, hauling. Like if you've got the ships or whatever ability to do that, to move a bunch of meteorites or asteroids or whatever, that just seems like that's way beyond our capability.
That's part of why it's good.
Yeah.
And why it also takes 25 years.
Yeah.
Because you're not flying out, grabbing asteroids with one single ship and towing it back. You're firing them off, basically firing them off with a couple of small rockets. And it's not like you're getting it there tomorrow. You're getting it there in 20 years. Between 5 and 20 years. And then there's a ship that catches them, that's in orbit, that catches them, brings them to exactly where they want to dump it, and then drops it right there, and then checks it for things. And then and of course, so what you do is you take the heaviest, most magnetic rocks, and you drop them onto the planet first. Then once you've got like most of those down, you build up this huge like collection of ones that contain mostly water or ice or gases or something like that, and then you drop those in last, and then that helps to create actual moisture on the planet's surface.
That seems like I have so many questions about that process and how you'd overcome certain things. However, I feel like we were talking about something else. Oh yeah, video games. So yeah, this Deliver Us Mars game. It does.
Sorry,
it does look cool.
Get nerdy.
No, it's fine actually. I mean, we did this last time too. Going on, we talk about Star Trek for like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
and I love talking about this stuff. That was kind of the vision for this podcast, was just let it go where it goes. But we of course want feedback from everybody. Let us know what you want to hear us talk about. If you would rather we stay more on topic,
these
or
guys
just
made a game beforehand called Deliver Us Moon.
Deliver Us Moon.
That, yeah.
Oh yeah, were you part of that?
I was not here for that. I just found it and I was like, I'm gonna play this in the meantime.
Yeah, so I love discovering a game where, you know, the second one is coming out and it's like, oh, there's a previous one, I can go check it out. Yeah, so you can play that in the meantime before this comes out. By the way, this is supposed to come out February 2nd. So one of the many, there's like nothing coming out in January. February is jam-packed this coming year. It's going to be kind of crazy. So my only concern with this, I mean, the Deliver Us the Moon, the first game, has very, very, like, if it's very positively reviewed on, as far as players on Steam. There's some complaints about it, some technical stuff. Some people found it boring. My concern with a game like this is like, does it feel like just one of the top reviews here says great walking sim, and that doesn't appeal to me. Walking simulator. I mean, it's more than that. There are puzzles. There are some traversal elements. So I guess my concern is it gonna wind up being just kind of an empty feeling walking simulator, or will it actually be compelling enough to stick with? And it's impossible to know.
But
at this point.
that is a thing of space, right? And
yeah,
this really does tie into the potential problems that we're going to run into with Starfield and its system of exploration.
yes,
Because you have hundreds of planets that are going to be lifeless. Now, the good thing that I think Bethesda is doing is they are making you very aware of which planets are going to be lifeless and which ones are not going to be lifeless.
yeah,
And I think
they'll
that's
indicate.
so important.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And I'm not saying, I'm not demanding that this game be a that there has to be some crazy element like you get attacked by Martians or something for this game to be interesting. That's not what I'm trying to say at all. But you know, there's this fine line between a game being like empty and atmospheric in a good way, or crossing over that line to just kind of being just empty. So hopefully this one stays on the good side of that line, and that it's a compelling story, and I am interested to check it out if I have time. And Moon, I encourage you to check it out and maybe do some content on it if you have the desire to. And let us know, those of you watching, if this is one you're interested in. Also, tell us what games you are interested in for what's upcoming in 2023. What you're most anticipating for the entire year. It doesn't have to be just the first part of the year, although we are more or less going to be focusing on sort of the first few months in this stream. But we can talk about. I actually have. I'm going to talk about some games that are coming out a little bit later, plus some that may or may not even be coming in 2023, but we think they are. Rise Against Them says, wouldn't doubling the mass of Mars potentially pulling asteroids toward the inner solar system. Yeah, that I suppose. I don't know.
Well, it is right near that belt.
Yeah.
But you do have 2 moons around Mars, which, again, you could phobia. You'd have to increase a little bit its mass, but if you did, and if you managed to like stabilize its system, moons are actually really, 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 really good at deflecting and absorbing the vast majority of meteorites.
Yeah,
Meteors.
but I mean, if the meteorites, if it dislodges some asteroids from the belt and sends them toward the inner solar system, they could collide with Earth. So,
again, that's actually not. That's not as like you could fire 1 million more asteroids from the outer belt towards the inner belt, and out of those million, basically none of them would be a problem for Earth.
well,
Like a fraction of a single one might have some moderate potential. That's about it, because it's not that you're it's not like it's a finite system, right? Like there's 10,000 lottery tickets, and if you buy out all 10,000, you're guaranteed to get a hit. It's a different, that's a raffle, right? A lottery system is like what we face every day, and that is like out of 60 million possibilities, how many of those are going to hit us? Well, the chances of any of them hitting us is like 0.00000000001, and it's like that's for each one of them. So even if you buy 1 million more, you're not actually increasing.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. There's like, okay, so it's rare that
like
these things would...
and it's because of how that system works, of like the moon, how most asteroids tend to bounce off of atmospheres, how the majority of them get burnt up if they do manage to get through, and that it's just that super rare timing of like how many of them actually make it through. And it's kind of like if you chucked in 1 million more asteroids that are the size of a baseball, none of those are a problem to us at all. And if you chucked in 1 million more that are the size of a house, again, none of those would be a problem. There's lots of house-sized meteorites that as soon as they hit the atmosphere, they burn up within seconds, and those aren't really an issue. The ones that are bigger issue are like massive ones, and even then, there's the science behind those are like by the time we get to this point, we would be able to handle any of those with ease.
Well, I think that by the time, if we're getting to the point where we can move asteroids and increase the mass of a planet by 50%, which is nuts if you think about it. We're like in, I feel like we're in beyond Star Trek territory at that point. But in any case,
and eventually there'll be a system where this is kind of a cool one. So eventually there'll be this cool system. This is the last sci-fi thing or not sci-fi, sci-fact thing that I'll mention, is that eventually they want to have a network grid of satellites throughout the entire system that tracks every single rock moving. And you'd only need about, like, to do a basic network, you only need about 800 of them. To do a really good system, you'd need like 10,000. That's not actually that many. I mean, how many, like, especially not when you're considering what do they need? They basically need really good cameras, telemetry systems, and then just a way to report their findings back in the grid, funneling their information back to a central computer that calculates everything. Then we would be able to detect whenever an asteroid is going to hit anything, because if you have that much eyes on the system and you're generating that information live, you can see what exactly is going to be the problem and what exactly you need to do to avoid the problem. So that's so cool. Mm-hmm. Like, it's getting there.
So I see two cool things that I just want to point out before we should move on and talk about a different game. But cute robot companion, always good. And it looks like there's going to be a decent variety of environments. At least you get to visit this rocky, snow-covered area, so it's not going to be all red
it does
rocks.
look like they're in the process of terraforming Mars in this
maybe, or
world?
there are like Mars has polar ice caps. There's ice on Mars. So there's who knows? It could be either or. Maybe you just go visit the North Pole, or maybe they are terraforming a part of it, or in the process of terraforming the whole thing. Who knows? Yeah. All right. So yeah, this one looks interesting. All right. What should we talk about next? We've got, of course, there's this little game coming out in early February. It's based on, I don't know, it's based on this obscure book series that came out, 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Harry Plotter?
Plotter? I think that's right. Plotter, the plot. No, wait, no, that's wrong.
So, of course, Hogwarts Legacy. Looking, just the more we see about this one, the more fascinating it looks. First of all, it's just beautiful. A little bit like it is supposed to be coming out on the Switch, and I hope that doesn't.
No, so the Switch and the older consoles, it's coming out later. It's not coming out on the 10th. The Switch's version is the last to come out, and it's late in the year. The other two for the previous console gens, they're coming out, I think, 2.5 months after the February release.
I just hope that it didn't get toned down too much. No,
because the that's part of what they're doing is and why those games are coming late is they're taking the version that we're getting and then they're dumbing it down on that system. For that system, they're dumbing it down post-release. So there's no reduction of scope or planning or technical development based off of trying to service ancient stuff, which is really what Cyberpunk should have done. Honestly, it's what they should have done. They should have said, okay, well, we're doing an official full release for this, and then we're going to come out with the other systems later because we have to dumb everything down. We have to restrict NPCs, movement, AI, everything. We have to take it down.
So it's really going to dumb down the game on those systems, and it's unfortunate because this is a game I'd love to just sit in the living room and play on my Switch. But I don't want to play I don't want to play the technically neutered version. I want the full experience, right? And I don't want to buy an Xbox or a PlayStation. So yeah, I'll be playing this on PC. But anyway, looks amazingly beautiful. You could pull a griffin out of your pocket. Always good. Yeah. No, I mean, this just looks like
I do believe it comes out on the 10th for the S series, and if somebody's really having they don't want to upgrade to a $600 machine, the $300 machine, and that's Canadian, so that's
yeah.
So yeah, that's a lot more than the States. But yeah, if for people who are on a budget, there is the S series that's probably the best one that you can get. But yeah, Griffins, right? Mad King, Griffins.
Yeah, for Griffins. The open worldness, the amazing variety of things that it looks like you can do in this game is really what's appealing about this for me.
Yeah.
I mean, plus just kind of the gorgeous graphics and being able to sort of be in the world of Harry Potter is really cool. But yeah, the Saib, you can probably talk about this a little more than I can. I've seen the trailers, I've read a little bit about it, but what can we expect to experience in this open world? Are we going to get a lot of choice? Are we going to get a lot of story changing,
a lot
things
of choice
that come out that change the outcome of the story, kind of a thing?
Yeah, so we've got the we've got what we believe is going to be 3 routes to play the game as far as moral choices goes, which is going to be kind of like dark side, light side, middle road kind of thing. Those have been confirmed through the story trailer choices that we've been presented with.
Okay,
you can learn to use dark magic and use the unforgivable curses on people rather regularly, which is kind of frightening.
You can become the new...
Or you can shun it and
Yeah.
just flat out refuse to and continue to only use defensive style, lighter magic. We know that there's some deals to be made with certain elements in the game. We don't know how much that'll affect it, so we won't mention that. But we do have the 4 houses, another route. So you can theoretically play the game at the very minimum of 12 times with just the basic choices.
Yeah.
So going through good, medium, bad
in each of the houses.
Each of the houses to see any of that unique content. And it would, because they say houses take a big role, play a big part in the game. And I'm going to suspect that that's because of some elements. I don't know for sure. That's something that may be a little bit exaggerated, because we do know that the companions can come from any of the houses and that you can make friends with them or not make friends with them based off of a whole bunch of different things. So again, how much that plays into it, we don't know yet, so I won't promise it. It could be that you can have all of the companions on any of the playthroughs in any of the moral choices. If that's the case, and they're just kind of like yes men that, like, you can convince to, you can corrupt to become evil, or you could convince, no, we shouldn't use dark magic to do a bunch of random stuff. Probably a good idea.
Yeah. I do wonder about how much overlap. Like you said, if there's 12 possible combinations of those major choices, how much overlap will there be? Because I have to think that, there has to be some. They didn't make 12 distinct games based on your choices. So yeah, what is the overlap, and will it be substantial or will it be superficial? These are just questions I have. I know going into other, there's played games before where it's like, oh yeah, you get different quests depending on which faction you side with or which choices you make, and it turns out it's like there's like 2 unique quests. I think in Dying Light 2 was kind of like there are some unique quests with either of the 2 factions that you can align yourself with, but not that many. Like the main story is pretty much the same, regardless of which one you choose. So it's going to be more like that. And honestly, like, I'm kind of okay with it if it's like your house the house you choose makes things a little different because you're around different characters, or meet different people, maybe a unique companion with each house. But then the moral choices you make having a bigger difference, that'd be interesting. It would be amazing if it was like a completely different game if you choose one house or the other. But that seems very impractical from a development standpoint, because then you're making like 4 games instead of 1 game. Anyway, Moon, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm super excited for this because I played an earlier version of a Hogwarts game called Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone on the Xbox back in a
like long time ago.
That was like 2000s, early 2000s. Yeah, no, and I had so much fun with that game, except I wanted to go do things that like I couldn't really do outside of the scope of the game because it was following like a fairly linear storyline. But now, not only do I get to go back to this school, I get to play as my own character and do the things I want to do. So I'm super excited for this.
Yeah, that is pretty cool that you can be in the world as your own character. And it's not like, I imagine we're not going to be running into Hermione and Ron like.
Well, that would be interesting since this is about 100 years before the movies. So
it's set before.
Right?
Okay.
This is 1800.
I wonder if it'll set up any lore that leads into the original stories.
It might. Maybe we'll run into some of like the Dark Coven that like Harry fights against in the future, but like pass, because it does say you're gonna encounter some dark wizards and what, right?
Yeah.
The Gaunts, I believe, is that's the family that bred Voldemort. So they've been a pretty evil family. Not all of them. There has been there was a Gaunt who kind of turned her back on the evil side of her family, um, and actually set up the American school. So there's a ton of there is a ton of lore within that time period, um, that we can encounter and interact with. So
yeah, right on. Ben Heisen, welcome. Says, I'm doing the Fallout 4 best ending. Can I do the old guns mission? Oh man, forcing us to think back quite a bit here.
You can the old guns missions. If that's the one with the Minutemen, yes. If it's the one with the Brotherhood, where you're getting the nukes, no. Because whenever the Brotherhood got their hands on nukes, they became incredibly hostile to everybody else. It was, I think it's one of the missions that tips their AI to be more aggressive, and that higher aggression, though it may not necessarily tie into the story, does affect the overall experience of that. So, but you can definitely 100%, you can definitely do any of the missions with the Minutemen. That's actually how you finish up the game, is by following the Minutemen missions all the way through, and because they're not naturally aggressive to any of the other factions until those other factions have become militarized themselves. So that's that.
Oh, you beat me to it, Moon.
Yep. I saw that pop up right away. I was like, go away, bot. Go away, bot.
Stupid bot.
No, well, they are kind of aggressive, but the aggressiveness, like, I tracked it for about 20 hours on both sides of, like, when you give them like everything, when they become like, when you push them past that, like, getting the nuke stage, they are way more aggressive. Like, they're just hugely more aggressive. They become hyper aggressive in doing in like, so normally, you've got some raiders, some Minutemen, and some Brotherhood of Steel people in the same location. In the early part of the game, before you do any of the end game kind of missions for them, the Brotherhood will engage in hostile conflict with the Minutemen like 1 out of 10 times, which is still a lot. But after they get the nukes, they would engage in combat about 8 out of 10 times. So I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's because they had more weapons that tended to spray at that point, and that once they hit the Minutemen by accident more than a handful of times, and they become super aggressive. I don't know what that switch is, but there was a clear delineation between them going super hostile most of the time and just going hostile a small amount of the time. And that, to me, that's the way that perspective works.
Yeah. Okay, man. Going back a few years with that one, hey?
Yeah, and again, if you want the best way to play Fallout 4, it's with our personal mod that's called Project Valkyrie, that adds almost 20 hours of new game content to the game and finishes off stories with all of the major factions, uniting them under your single rule or killing them all off. Totally optional. Whatever you want to do, it's there. It's called Project Valkyrie. It's on Nexus, and it's one of the most popular mods for additional game content, not just like shooting babies out of your nuke. It's like, it actually
you can do that too.
It actually
want,
changes the storyline.
Yeah,
and we change the storyline by actually using the same voice acting. So we just go in and we just chopped up the audio work there to make that different. And a big call out to my co-mod creator for that.
Mm-hmm. Does your co-mod creator have a name?
That I can't remember right now because it's one of those weird ones.
It's
But
on the tip of my tongue.
If you look up Project Valkyrie, it'll be right there.
Yeah. So, yeah. By the way, Sunglare, yes, it did. The bot did promise a way of finding love, but I have a better way. All you have to do is slam that like button, and undying love will be yours, or at least you will have a greater chance of finding the love of your life in the next 10 minutes than you will by following the link that sex bot was posting. Just saying. I can confidently say that hitting the like button on this video will give you more chance of finding love than clicking on that sex bot thing.
That website, yeah.
And much less chance of your computer getting infected with a horrific virus that'll make it start growing fungus and explode. So just saying. All right, so anything more to say about Hogwarts Legacy?
We are going to be doing a lot of content with it for sure. Like for sure, we're going to be streaming it a lot on its initial release, and we're going to be making guides for it. There's going to be an enormous amount of work behind it. Yeah, there we go.
Thuggy Smurf, yeah.
I can never remember if Thuggy Smurf if there's an R in there or not, and I don't know why. Because I don't know why.
Yes, there is an R.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Fernando assisted. There's also we also had a couple other lots of other mod creators let us use certain assets from them. The outfit that Valkyrie uses is made by I believe it's Fosmo, something like that. I haven't talked to him for years, but he had some amazing just early game like outfits that were lore like relevant, that had layered systems, so you could have like a like you could do the layers differently. Just absolutely great. And that was really, it was one of the bigger community based ones. It wasn't that everybody got together and said, hey, let's do this. It was Thuggy managed to actually track down everybody and get everybody to say yes. And then he did an amazing job.
And he's a pretty, he's a pretty prolific modder. So it was great to work with him and have access to his expertise in that. I did something. I don't remember what. I know I did something with that mod.
So you did a lot of the sound stuff. A lot of the sound stuff for Valkyrie's voice lines. You did all the editing on that.
Yes, that's right. I remember. You coming to my house and sitting with me while I was cutting lines. Mm-hmm. It's like add 3 more milliseconds in that space there. Okay, so speaking of, actually no, not speaking of Fallout, because I don't want to talk about Starfield quite yet.
Are you sure? Like
we could talk about Starfield.
We could hop into the Starfield.
Well, Starfield is
definitely
one of our more highly anticipated games of the year. It's supposed to be coming out in the first half of the year, but we don't know exactly when.
Yeah.
And so it'll be, I'm guessing probably not March. Almost said Mars. Mars on the brain.
We have no idea right now. And March/February is honestly an optional date. We don't know how much work they needed to do. We also believe that there was a delay from Microsoft's end based on the political/governmental problems they were having with the Activision buyout.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the reasons why they didn't announce all of their new upcoming games is that the primary argument against Microsoft getting access to Activision through the buyout was that they would have more what's the word for it?
More of a monopoly? Is that what you're trying to say?
No.
More exclusives?
More exclusives. They would have more exclusives than PlayStation, which is ludicrous on its face because PlayStation has had every year, they have 20 to 30 major exclusives. And even right now, if they bought out if Microsoft bought out Activision this year, they would only have one more exclusive than they had last year. That's if that's even going to happen that way. So the whole argument is dumb, stupid, pointless, arrogant, and it's, ooh man, that lawsuit. So Microsoft is now suing the FTC because they moved to block it, and I think that what Microsoft said was true. Microsoft came out and said the FTC has grown past its separation of powers. It is now functioning within two of the realms, if not arguably three of the realms of power within the world of American business, which is not supposed to happen. Constitutionally, that's not supposed to be allowed. You're never supposed to have one arm of the government being able to do more than one of its arms. You can't have it doing the other. You can't have the feds working in the courts. You can't have the Congress working in the courts, vice versa. That's just not how it's supposed to work. There is supposed to be a set way of doing things, and that's the way it goes. So they have said that they've basically declared war on the FTC and on PlayStation. So this is going to be really interesting.
It is going to be interesting. This whole idea that they'll have more exclusives. I mean, Microsoft is, first of all, a much larger company. And since when do they get all up in arms about exclusives anyway?
Yeah, no, that's always been a PlayStation thing.
Well, and like, how many exclusives does Nintendo have? I mean, if the new rule is going to be you have to release your game on all available platforms, I first of all, I just don't think you can legislate that, because then you have to be like, well, what counts as a platform? And you're demanding extra work of the developers to make it work on all these like, what are they asking for?
Right.
I don't see how. Now, I'm not saying, just speaking legally, I don't have, I don't want there to suddenly be laws saying, okay, yeah, you can't make a game system and then make a game that only runs on that system. I think that's a stupid idea to make a law like that. Do I want lots of exclusives? No, but I think that the answer to that is for the general public to, if you don't like exclusives, don't buy a console that has all kinds of exclusives. I don't know. I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, Rise, like most Nintendo games are exclusive, and I'm a sucker for Nintendo stuff. I'm not gonna lie. I have a Switch. I love my Nintendo stuff. I love my Mario stuff. I love a lot of the great Nintendo franchises. But yeah, they're only on Nintendo. I do, like Saib said. No, it wasn't. It was in on Maximum News. By the way, subscribe to Triple S Podcasts to catch Maximum News with Max Darrett and Saibsidian every week. It's a branch of our Triple S League channel here. Triple S Podcasts. Find the link in the description. But yeah, Nintendo, what was I saying? Like Saib said on that show, which also just came out just before we went live here. Yeah, I'd love to play Nintendo stuff on another platform. Why don't they make it available? They're just leaving money on the table there. I'd buy all kinds of Nintendo stuff on my PC if I could. Yeah. And for a $70 Nintendo game. Yeah. I mean, and then you have to ask, like, are games just getting too expensive? Or are they not? Or what was that? What was the game we looked at? I pulled it up on Steam during one of our recent live streams. It was like 20 or 30% more expensive than a typical AAA game. It was like $80 US or something, $85 US, which is like $100 Canadian. And like here we're in United States, so a typical AAA game is about $60 US. Some of them are now $70 US. Works out to like $80, $85, $90 Canadian. But it was like $110 or $120 Canadian, something like that. What game was that? And it wasn't for like that was the base price listed right here on Steam. It wasn't like the special edition price or the, super combo edition price or anything like that. It was like your regular price here. And so, don't remember. If someone remembers, let me know in the live chat. Everything should be available on PC, says Rise, but that's just my opinion. How many developers have their own launchers? There's really no excuse not to be able to run them. Yeah, well, I think emulators should just be legal, and that, I don't know. There's probably two sides to that argument, but if, like, say you developed an Xbox emulator or a PlayStation emulator, so you could run these games on your PC. These exist for old systems. Creating one for a newer system would obviously be quite a challenge, or maybe it wouldn't be a challenge. I don't know. Is that currently legal? And is that
emulators are not legal?
Well, some of them are.
I think there was a case. I think there's some argument to be made for if you have a copy of your original purchase of a product, and the thing that runs it is no longer available, then you can port it over and use it on something. I think this.
Yeah,
this
you're talking about the ROM
like,
now, though. Like, you're talking about the game now. I'm talking about the hardware. Is it legal to emulate the hardware? Now, I don't mean to sell it, like to create an Xbox emulator and sell it or something like that. But just to say, I just sit down on my computer, I program something that'll run an Xbox One game or an Xbox Series X game. And then I can just take my Xbox disc, plug it into my computer, and run the game. I'm not ripping, I'm not illegally copying the game. I'm not doing something for profit, but I just code my own. I
just want to play the game that I got.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I don't think emulators are not illegal. At least not some for older systems. For newer systems, I don't know. You might get into patent violation territory, but I'm pretty sure an emulator for an old NES system isn't illegal as far as I know. Mm-hmm. Technically, copying and distributing the game files is. But yeah, I'm just curious, Sab. Do you know, is there are you getting into legally sketchy territory if you say made a PlayStation 5 emulator?
No, that's like making your own record player.
See, that's what I thought.
So the emulators themselves, all you're doing is you're developing a way to run a program. Mm-hmm. Running a program or running data is not illegal yet. Let's hope that never changes. Mm-hmm. But you're not that. That's not a thing. You don't have to The problem is not in the emulators of technology, because you need that to understand code on a wide level. Mm-hmm. And if you're looking at learning how to code, you don't run into a problem by accidentally making a program or intentionally making a program that can run especially antiquated other technologies.
Yeah.
There is a handful of things that you can do right now that'll get you into legal hot water if you're trying to make certain programs that will run ancient military programs. That will land you in jail very, very quickly without a trial. But that's just kind of also the field of don't mess around with military secrets.
There's a realm of classified stuff that you don't want to mess. Yeah, you don't want to muck around with.
So the old intercontinental ballistic missile launchers, they all still run off of old floppy drives. And if you're running around buying up that same level, like the technology, like it's different than the floppy drives we had, 20 years ago. These are floppy drives that are a little bit older than that and a little bit different. If you're running around buying up parts from that particular era, your name's going on a list somewhere. And the more you get, the more you start working with it, the more somebody's going to assume that you're selling that or you're utilizing that in some way to hack this IBM.
Well, then why are they not going after the people that are selling that stuff? If it's like a restricted
because
product,
selling it's not illegal because you're just selling parts and stuff that you own.
Well,
it's when somebody's collecting all of this. Like, for example,
well, that's garbage though.
Illegal.
That's
No. This is normal. It's like if you're selling used microwaves for scrap, that's not a bad thing. You can sell them to people who officially recycle them. But when a single dude buys up, 2,000 of them, that raises alarm bells because with 2,000 microwaves, you can make your own nuclear reactor at home. And that's not good.
Microwaves.
And we've seen somebody try to do that before. So, and you don't want Joe Blow next door making a nuclear reactor in the back of his house, of which you are 20 feet away from, because that's just not going to end well for you and everybody else on the block or possibly the street. So there is some level of like, of course it's a sucky area, but again, nobody runs into this except for people who are like, the way that the rules are set up right now with this whole thing with the old floppy drives is nobody runs into that problem except for the people who actually are trying to do nefarious things with it. So that's all.
Fair. I mean, I get that, you need to, it's just,
you're not running out to buy 2,000 of these old floppy drive machines unless you're planning on doing something. I have
a philosophical issue with the idea of you're doing something that's completely legal, but because you're doing it in a certain way, the government's gonna put your name on a list and spy on you. That's I have a philosophical issue with you. Practically, I see where...
Like when it comes to nuclear secrets, though, I don't want anybody getting their hands on them. It's bad enough that the government has them. I don't want the average Joe getting nuclear...
See, I do see that side of it. And yeah, I don't want my neighbor I don't want my neighbor turning my city into a crater. Yeah. It's like buying like Rise says, it's like buying a bunch of questionable materials at the store might end up on a list for observation. Yeah,
no, it's not buying up a bunch of stuff at a store. It's like
he's saying it's like that. It's analogous. How you might wind up at a list again, on a list for observation.
If you would have to go to most of the stores that are selling these stuff and buying up a particular thing. If you're buying everything that the store has and you run a giant recycling business, then that doesn't raise eyebrows. The thing that raises eyebrows is when you're buying the T75.45593 model, of which there's only about 200 of them left in that part of the country. You buying up all of them is nefarious.
Well, I think
you can't accidentally buy up all 200 of that particular model and only that particular model, and then you're not planning on doing something nefarious with that. Like
yes, it's like you go around and buy all of the, what was it from Breaking Bad? It's like all of the this type of cold medication.
Yeah.
You buy all of that from all your local stores. That raises suspicions, and I understand why it does. I understand. It's not arguing that. I do have like I said, I just kind of have this philosophical issue with it being, if it's legal, and if there's not a law on the books that says you can only buy so much of this stuff, then, and maybe there is, maybe, I don't know. Buying a ton of fertilizer and accelerants and other non-mentionable things is suspicious. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah,
I see why.
Yeah, and you do run into, so again, if you go out and you buy, so you could buy fertilizer, that's fine, but that's also a regulated thing, right? Because if you buy up a ton of a particular one type of fertilizer and then dump it into a water stream, you cause like permanent damage to the ecosystem. So that's why that particular thing is regulated. They're going, okay, how much are you buying? What are you using it for? All right, if you have this much on site, then you need a proper way of like containing this stuff, because when you don't contain it properly, well, we saw what happens when you don't contain fertilizer properly. You blow up a city. Not, and again, this is something that happened 2 years ago. They blew up an entire city, not just a part of a city. They blew up the entire city. Like the before and after pictures are horrendous. So that's why like there's certain rules. And again, it's like those rules are fine, because you as like a farmer needing to buy fertilizer, you run into a small handful of problems when the government's not being crazy, right? Like if there's nobody who's like crazy running the system, you're just like, hey, do you have a way of storing it that's safe? Do you have are you near a waterway that, if your place got flooded out tomorrow, would this cause a domino effect? Those kinds of questions, like those are fair questions, because when we don't have those, like we see when that's not done properly. Like Mooney and we see that fairly regularly. That was actually, we saw that a lot this year. There's whole parcels of land that are just not livable because somebody did something wrong that wasn't illegal at the time, but now that area is not fit for human habitation, period, for the next 200 years. And it's like, do we want laws on the books to prevent that kind of thing? Yeah. Does it affect the average normal person? No. You have to be going way out of your way. You are definitely on the fringe. You're not in the realm of like normalcy, period. Mm-hmm. And that's what those laws
well, no, having laws on the books like that, I don't have a problem with it. Like to control legitimately dangerous substances. When you mentioned you're going on a list because you bought a certain type of hardware, that's where I get like, if they're gonna have an issue with that, why is it legal to buy and sell them then?
But it's not. It's again, you're missing the point. It's like,
no, I'm not. No, I get the point. I'm just saying. I'm just explaining where I was going from.
You're not getting in trouble for buying one, or buying two, or buying three. You're getting in trouble when you're buying 300.
Moon, save me. You need to talk about something here.
Like, so yes, the
so Starfield
Rise Against the Lebanon port explosion, Bangladesh.
Sunglare says, "Oh, I see how it is, trying to go after people that want to live off the grid."
Living off the grid is.
I do have a friend who successfully built a completely off the grid home. It was completely 100% off the grid out in the country, self-sustaining, until his wife moved in and was freezing cold all the time. So he got a gas hookup for heat. But anyway, yeah, he was telling me there were so many hurdles in the way of doing that, because like building codes and stuff and inspectors and whatnot, they just, like, this is completely off their radar. They don't. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there was necessarily anything nefarious, but yeah, he had to go through a lot to make that actually happen. So Starfield.
Starfield. I wonder, can I build my own farm on there?
I would have to think there's got to be some kind of, like, if you're going to,
Yes.
Like kind of resources.
Yeah, if you're going to
can,
colonize a planet, you obviously have to grow food.
Yeah. So you get to colonize a planet. You get to build resource. There is a resource management system that you can build. If you want to micromanage that, you can. If you don't want to micromanage it, you don't have to.
Woo,
I'm excited.
Option.
Yeah, I'm excited for base building to rise as long as it's maybe better than it was. It wasn't bad in Fallout 4, I guess, but it was not all that interesting to me. No, like it got to the point where like I'd built my main base up pretty good, but then what
Having
after
multiple ones subsequent afterwards is tedious.
yeah, after I'd cleared the enemies out of certain areas and what's his name with the hat, be like another settlement needs our help, and so I'd go there and help them, and then they start moving back in, and I'd just be kind of like, well, see ya, have fun. Not interested in building another base here. Maybe, I mean, that could just be me though. What I'm super excited for is the idea that I can set down on a planet, maybe terraform an area of it or whatever you do to make it livable. Build a base, or have just set some people there to build a base, but then get in my spaceship, seamlessly fly out into space, fly to another planet, and just set down on my other base with no loading screens in between. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing thought that you can seamlessly go from the surface of a planet into outer space. And I'm assuming that's how it's going to... Am I off base there, Sib? That's what we're expecting?
No, that's what we're expecting to get.
And then...
we don't know the extent of the base building. We do know that it's comparable to... and not comparable, but also far better than the one that's currently in Fallout 4. And most likely better than the one that's in Fallout 76 at the moment. If you want to get lost and build a gigantic city on a single planet, you can do that. And once mods come out for it, you're going to be able to do that even more so. The things that people have done in Fallout 4 with the mods in Fallout 4, they have built entire cities, like full on triple the size of the biggest cities that are in any other Bethesda game. And this engine has the ability to render things on a planetary scale. Now, how that works, like that, the only question that falls to me is like, what happens to a save game file when you're 500 hours in and you're starting work on your second metropolis on the same planet? Like, without mods,
is it
like,
how bloated are those save files going to get?
Now, and again, I think what we're going to see when it comes to bigger games and bigger things, like in Starfield, you're going to be able to do massive things with the mods that come out. And it's like some people are like, so you mean day one I can't make a city with like 30,000 people on a planet? That's BS. I wanted to do that, period. Bethesda obviously still running a stupid old engine. It's like, calm down there, buddy. You'll be able to do that in probably the first 6 months of mods. Probably the first month of mods.
If you're
honestly.
on PC.
If you're on PC.
That's the massive asterisk that I like to bring up whenever we're talking about mods, because we just kind of assume that we'll have mods available because we're all PC players here. But for those on consoles, I'm still like this had really better be a fully fleshed out experience on all platforms. We got Rise in the chat saying, well, now I'm excited for Starfield. And I mean, I'm glad for that. I'm also hesitant. Like, if it turns out Starfield sucks, like, I kind of, even as we're talking about it here, I'm kind of having flashbacks to when we were doing the Cyberpunk community podcast and all that, and you'll be able to do this, you'll be able to do that, and then it wound up being a dud. Not so much a dud, but just a dud relative to our expectations for it. Like if it had just come out without all of the overhype,
right,
we would have said, "Oh, this is a decent game that we had fun playing." I did have fun playing it, but it didn't have what they promised beforehand and all of that. Now,
they overpromised, and the thing is that the biggest screw up that they made was that they didn't give it enough time. And I honestly think they didn't give it enough time because what were they wanting to avoid? And they wanted to avoid having to give the money back to the government, their government in particular, that they didn't want to have to give that money back.
They got a time-sensitive grant kind of a thing?
Yeah, they got that big time-sensitive grant. And I think that was the thing that killed them, essentially, was that they had the ability to not do this. They had the option to just say, you know what, we need a couple more months on this, probably need a year, but we're going to have to pay back this loan, this interest-free loan from the government. And They didn't want to do that because they wanted to make as much cash as they could, and they made a lot of money and that was their thing, but they lost a lot of the goodwill and they lost a lot of the trust that the community had in them.
Yes. So now Bethesda's already done that. So this is like they're like a step ahead. They did that with 76. Now I know it's not exactly the same, but you know what I mean. This could either be their massive comeback or the last nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
Now,
so we will see which one of those it is.
Yeah.
And I feel that they're not dumb enough to have completely spaced on this. I feel like that would be a little bit of a that wouldn't be smart for them to do.
No, right? I agreed. This if Starfield is and I just can't see it happen. Like Fallout 76 was a very unique case. I feel. I mean, they basically took Fallout 4 and tried to turn it into an online a multiplayer experience. Did not do it well, but Fallout 4 had its flaws. It was not a perfect game. Not everybody liked it, but it was a good game in general. And for all its flaws, I enjoyed playing it. You can mod the crap out of it. If we look back at that, like, can this be? And again, like even looking back at Skyrim, broken as heck at launch.
Yeah.
But for all the bugs, for all of the problems, people keep playing these Bethesda games because they offer something that we just don't get anywhere else.
Well, last night I checked it out, and on Steam alone, there was 100,000 people playing Bethesda games.
Yeah, why is that? Well, they offer something.
Not Bethesda, like the wider Bethesda studio, Microsoft no, just
Bethesda.
Elder Scrolls, not the MMO, just the Elder Scrolls, like single player games and the Fallout single player games. Over 100,000 people live at that minute, reported 6 minutes prior to. So that's the thing that like people are like, I get it, you're upset, you're hating on Bethesda, but they're not insignificant.
Yeah. That's right. And as Game Notes says, yeah, by the way, nice to see you in the live chat. As Game Notes says, there's something about Skyrim. There just is. There's something about Skyrim. There's something about Fallout. There's something about all of the... And I'm not blind to all the flaws that Bethesda has as a company or has had. Yes, they kind of made they mucked up when they wanted to take over the modding situation They mucked up things with that. Yes, there was horse armor. Yes, there was Fallout 76. Yes, they kind of cheated that, or they screwed that other company out of the Fallout IP. I get all that. Not a perfect company. Under new management now, hopefully things are different. And hopefully, like I said, really hoping Skyrim's going to be just a return to, like, there's always the, you know, we look back at gaming experiences of the past, and I even remember, you know, looking back at playing The Witcher 3, and what I was envisioning in my head was like playing The Witcher 3 with the visual fidelity of like a modern game. And then I went back and actually played it. I was like, wow, this looks like crap. I mean, it was still fun, but I was like, man, this looks so old. Let's get me some graphical update mods.
Right.
Where was I going with that? Yeah, so I hope they don't just meet our expectations. I think they need to exceed our expectations in order to really pull themselves out of the rut they're in. They need to not have the consistent bugs that get fixed by modders. Like there's nothing that, it's like nails on a chalkboard now for me when I hear like, oh, modders will fix this. Modders will fix it if it's got all these problems. Yeah, no, that's not what I want. First of all, lots of people can't get the mods because they're playing on console. Second of all, mods should enhance a game. They shouldn't fix a game. Those are my thoughts. Mooney, how about you?
No, I agree with those points. Like, I actually was playing Skyrim and Fallout 4 on the console.
Yeah.
Oh my god. What a janky experience that was. Because, like, literally, I'd like, be like, oh yeah, I think I want to play this game. I'd go try to start the game up, and I'd wait like 20 minutes, half an hour for that thing to start, because it was just so long. And then by the time it was doing it, it'd be like playing through like the intro theme and just whoa, just oh my gosh, it was
a save game file issue. The more save games you had, the more save files you had, the longer it would take to load.
Yeah, because it's just
you have to go through and you have to delete all your saves except for the most recent one, and then it loads like butter.
Boo!
Why? Yeah, you would think it would. Why doesn't it have some kind of file management where it compresses your old saves or something? Because that's
it's not that it's not a compression issue. It's a literal. It's going to check out every single thing in your save file system, and it's going to load all of that stuff so they can load the save file really quickly. The fact that they never notified anybody of this is like, oh my goodness! Like,
yeah, that would have been helpful. Because like I basically kind of stopped playing it because of that.
It just seems like that just.
I'd rather play other things.
Sure, but that to have that save file problem, that seems like a problem that should not exist. Like that just seems like it's poorly designed, if that's the case. Mm-hmm. Like that, it's slowing you down. Like that the number of save files causes that problem. That doesn't seem to make sense.
But no, for what little I was able to play, I enjoyed both of them. But like now that I've moved on to PC gaming, I'm happy that like I have more options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's in general why I prefer PC gaming too.
It's having the options is the nice thing, because like when I was playing on console, I was like basically limited to what they would be able to offer, right? Mm-hmm. It's like you could almost say the same thing for PC, but there's mods, right? So that's another plus.
Yeah, but and also there's, I mean, most games that come out on consoles are also coming out on PCs. Like at least as far as third-party titles. There's obviously PlayStation, Nintendo, they do their own thing. But there's a lot of third-party titles.
And at least there's a console option and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
You can go at it.
Rise says they need to stop promising stuff, announcing things you know can be done announce things you know can be done. Give us small videos, but all the promises they can't deliver have kept me from pre-ordering anything for the past 2 years. Yeah, and I would second the don't pre-order thing right there. Just don't pre-order anything. In fact, don't buy a game on release day if you're not absolutely convinced that it's. I mean that's a harder sell. Don't buy on release day. But I mean if you aren't sure, wait a few days, see the reviews from people who do buy it on release day, the content creators that are gonna that either get it beforehand or buy it on release day and do some reviews about it. Watch some video footage on it. Like you've got all kinds of options now. It's not like being in the Blockbuster, back when I was 8 years old trying to pick a Nintendo game to rent. It's like, well, what is this game? I don't know. How does it play? I don't know. Just guess based on the label of the game. Oh, it looks kind of cool. Game notes. The only game I ever pre-ordered was Cyberpunk. Incredible game, but yeah, lesson learned. Yeah. Yeah, big agree. And the nice thing, I mean, if you want to pre-order for the pre-order bonuses, you can still do that when it's like a couple hours to release too. So I see no reason to pre-order, especially a digital game. Like what is the purpose of it? Back when you had to kind of reserve your copy because there was only so many physical copies being released, yeah, I get it. Now, pre-ordering a 100% digital product, what is the point of pre-ordering? Can anyone tell me? Besides the bonuses they offer. But again, like you can do that an hour before the game releases and still get those bonuses. Okay. Did Saib go somewhere?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. You just haven't said anything in a while. So let's see. What else is happening?
Well, do we want to talk? So we are definitely going to, like, if Starfield is reasonably good, at the very least, we are definitely going to be moving ahead with some of our mods for the game. So, because the engine's the same, we're going to have the same general access to modding that we had in Fallout 4. So that means that we should have a mod fairly early on that's like pretty basic. One of our most successful mods in Fallout 4 was actually just a voiceover mod that added a bunch of like things for the player that were just kind of helped with immersion a little bit. So it wasn't a lot. It was about 30 to 40 like additional like subtle voice things, and that we were able to brute force as a mod in the first couple of weeks, and it was super smooth and easy. One of the things that we did in the first couple of days was we did a save file for a character design. We are going to be doing all of those for sure. Those are easy stuff to do, especially those character save versions. So Ash, are you gonna make a Markiplier this time?
I don't know, man. We'll see.
Well, I mean, just making a character in the character,
make Markiplier in the character creator. Yeah, well, I could probably do that. I'm less keen on going through and finding the voice lines again, but I'll maybe we'll see.
Well, the voice line stuff is...
Wait, it's not a voice protagonist, though.
No, it's not a voice protagonist. But
so yeah.
But as I was saying, there are lots of subtle voice lines that we can add. Things like jumping, falling, getting hurt. Like, we can add a whole bunch of those. So, I think this is gonna... I think we're gonna be able to do a lot. Honest, no promises. We're just talking about things like, obviously we have to see how it flows. We have to see how it kind of goes, but that's kind of our goal, is to do a little bit of that at the very least. And at the most, we want to do a couple of companion mods. So there's two kinds of companions in the game. There's personal companions. So like all the characters that you're familiar with that just follow you everywhere. They get into firefights with you, all that. But there's also ship companions who only do stuff on the ship. So like an engineer who fixes the ship and does stuff on the ship. A second helmsman who does stuff on the ship that you don't do. And you can fill your ship with a fair number of people. They're not always combat companions. Some of them are going to be both. So you're going to be able to you'll be able to hire a big enough crew that you can take all of those people from the special companions, and all those companions are just going to be on the ship all the time, and you can take any of them into combat that you want. Then there's going to be others that are just ship companions. So that's kind of the cool thing there. And the thing that's really exciting, because we should be able to, a lot of those characters are probably going to have less than 2,000 lines of dialogue, probably a lot less. So we're going to be able to do some tweaking on some of them. I think this is kind of the feel that I'm getting. I was talking with a bunch of modders the other day, and we're like, yeah, ship side companions are going to be easy, because you're going to be able to make them. You're going to be able to force on a new skin, a new face, a new head, and then you're going to add new dialogue lines. And because these aren't full-on companions, they're only like, on the ship companions, you only need about 100 to 200 lines of dialogue to have a really nice companion that's always on the ship. He doesn't come into combat with you, but he's always on the ship offering you stuff. So we're really excited about that potential. That potential means that we can have a lot of really cool companions. Super exciting. And I'm going to get Ash to make a Markiplier ship companion mod.
Let's have Markiplier hang out on the.
Yes, well, he just hangs out on the ship and he just talks to you about space stuff.
I will try.
Because Markiplier was kind enough to do an entire series and then give everybody the ability to do whatever they wanted with it. So, yeah, it's gonna be fun.
I'll try. Yeah, you know what I want as a companion is this dude, the droid from Andor. How is Andor so good?
Andor is really good.
This is the most unique droid character, I think, and one of my favorite droid characters in Star Wars. This little dude is awesome. B something.
And we know that the
EMO.
companions in Starfield, we know that those are going to be a mix of humans and robots.
Yeah. So I don't know, if someone could make this guy, that would be fantastic. All right, so
you could make this guy. We could do that. We're modern.
Yes, I can. I can. I could 3D model, animate his little, like the way he moves.
No. We're gonna give him a different body. Like we won't 3D model this in yet.
I'm just saying I could, and then I could learn how to put it in the game. But the time that would take is,
We'll just. How about we just rip a bunch of his voice lines and put his voice lines?
We could do that, yeah.
Starting robot, or the one from. I don't know if there's enough lines of dialogue from the movie with the other robot. The big badass one.
You know a lot of Star Wars people who don't like Andor. That's interesting. See, I thought Andor, it's kind of it's different in some ways. It's kind of the way they fleshed out what's going on in the Empire, the set designs, the characters that you see, all these different organizations and factions working within the universe as after the Emperor takes over. It's not that Andor himself is the most exciting character, but it's the world they've created, and some of the other supporting characters, like this droid, or like that guy, like that security guy, who's just like, now his life mission is to get Andor, or the whole prison thing that they did. It's like they put their A team on this show built around a side character from Rogue One, and it was like Day Shift at the strip club, who made Obi-Wan. Like, who is running the show over there? at whatever the Star Wars branch at Disney. It's ridiculous. It's for adults too. Yeah, it's not some stupid kids show. You don't have Jar Jar Binks running around and Ewoks and blah, blah, whatever. I'm really bitter about Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan sucked, and those characters deserved better than that. They shift on a Tuesday. Yeah, exactly. I'm just going based off of what I've heard. Not that I frequent strip clubs on Tuesdays. That is
weird. I don't know how anybody could look at Andor and not see that as like amazing main old school Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got a different, like, it's got a very different feel than Mandalorian. But I like that. I like that we're seeing sort of a different side of the universe.
Like the ship versus the Star Destroyer. It's amazing. Like, that's so amazing. And you know that only a super wealthy person with a lot of connections and a lot of powerful sub stuff could actually do that.
Oh yeah. Like, I know the scene you're talking about now. For a second I was kind of like, man, they have this technology. But yeah, obviously he's got some connections and money.
It was something like that defense system that he's got in there. I was reading some people speculating on the cost, and they're like, okay, so the darts he fires are this like super rare composite stuff, and so that stuff's like 200,000 credits for a single volley.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, so not everybody can afford, like, not even an army can afford to equip that on every ship, let alone on like every like important ship, let alone every ship. Like, that's just not gonna work.
Well, and it also kind of shows how the Empire is like, I have to imagine there's so much bloat, so much financial bloat, so much bureaucracy, that their own military and ships and equipment and troopers are under equipped, and they probably skimp on training, which is why the stormtroopers can't hit a damn thing.
Well, I mean, the TIE fighter is one of the cheapest, most useless like things in a toe-to-toe fight. Like, if you're like gonna take a TIE fighter versus any other like decent starship, it loses every time. The only reason why it doesn't lose all the time is that it's literally you're literally throwing thousands of them at a problem.
Yeah, thousands of them, thousands of pilots. They're just, and that's the, I mean, yeah, there you go. And people in the Empire are disposable. I was, because I was wondering in the whole prison thing, I was like, they actually have people building these whatever gizmos. I was like, why don't they just have droids doing this? And
because it needs human touch.
Well, so it's because they explain it. They explain it later in the show. It's kind of a guy makes a remark that they're like, we're cheaper and more expendable than droids. It's like, there you go. That explains it. All right. Starfield. Have we talked Starfield to death enough here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like obviously it's going to depend on the news that we get in the next couple of months about when it's coming out, and then it's also going to depend on when it actually does come out, and then it's also going to depend heavily on, how good it is, and what the community reaction to it is. Obviously, we're going to stream it, we're going to play it, we're going to do a bunch of stuff for it in general, and then depending on how good it's doing, then we'll do more or less depending on.
And I'm hoping, not hoping, but I'm kind of hoping it doesn't come out till this summer, because there's so much to play in the meantime. Like, I don't want to be having to choose between Hogwarts and Starfield or Starfield and Jedi Survivor, another game coming out in early 2023, March 17th. Oh, this says March 16th. But Jedi Survivor, the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, which is one of my favorite games from the past few years. I'm very much looking forward to this one. I hope they keep and it kind of looks like it. I hope they keep the formula and build on it of what they did with Fallen Order. And is that a Wampa? Is that like the Hoth planet monster on the non-Hoth planet? That's interesting.
I don't think Wampas were exclusive to Hoth. Like it's something like 90% of the life forms that you see in Star Wars are on all of the other planets.
Yeah, they do get around.
You just don't always see that. Yeah, because they're often pets. You know, people bring that like they're pets. Maybe they're manual labor. Maybe they're guard dogs essentially, yep. And that's how you get things on other planets because people go there. They set up a little facility. They got some wampas working as like basically alligators in a moat, and at some point the person flies off and is like, "Hey, what do we do about the wampas?" I don't care. Let them go.
Yeah, just let them survive. Yeah, some great characters in Fallen Order 2. By the way, I would absolutely watch a Star Wars show about Cal Kestis. Or if they brought him on as a character. I'm not sure which. I get so mixed up about which shows and games and things are in the same time periods and which aren't. But he's an awesome character. There's so many great characters in the first game that I hope they bring back in the second one. Fantastic. So, Rise, this is your number one can't wait game of 23. Toss up between this and Last of Us. Like the Last of Us remake. It's one of your it's one of your top games of I don't know how to digest that statement. I mean, I don't know how there's I guess I'd be surprised. I'm surprised that that a remake game. I mean, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm going to shut up. That's not the Last of Us is coming to PC. Oh yeah. Oh, it'll be your first time playing it on PC. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense.
That makes more sense.
My brain is all tainted from Last of Us 2, so.
Right.
Yeah, all right, so looking forward to this one. Of course, we got a little later on in the year, we got Baldur's Gate 3 coming in August, and hopefully there won't be a big conflict between that and Starfield.
So, yeah, and we are... One of my plans for Baldur's Gate is we're definitely going to be doing a lot of content, community content with that, because it's a community game.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a bunch of things that we want to do that is hopefully going to be really, really cool. So keep your eye out for that. It is a very moddable game, but the modding is a little bit different than what we're typically used to. So we'll kind of see how that goes. We might have to wait for some tools to come out on that. The thing that we're the most excited about is obviously that their advanced GM tools that will be coming at some point, and all of the additional post-release content, all the new races that they're going to be adding, all the new class subclasses that they're going to be adding, even potentially new classes that they'll be adding. A whole bunch of stuff. We're really, really excited about that, and I'm super excited to do a whole bunch of content, community content around that. I'm hoping to have one of the things I'd like to develop is sort of like a mini DM night where basically I get people in, I present them with typically a single encounter and DM that single encounter, not a single like this is Bob the salesman and then you deal with Bob the salesman for 5 minutes, but like something a little bit longer, right? So like maybe it's like a reasonably small creepy mansion, or maybe it's a tier fight where you've got like you got 3 or 4 like big fights in a row, that kind of stuff. That's the kind of thing that I'll hopefully be doing with the DM side of things, and get to utilize some of my voices for, and yeah, so I'm really excited about that. That's a lot of a post plan. for the release. They're not doing DM tools, a super large amount of DM tools. They're not doing separate campaigns or campaign builders. They're going to come out with the game. They're going to work on some expansions, and that's those expansions. That's where those DM tools are going to come from. So super excited.
Very cool. In May, we've got Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which, what do you know? It's not coming out on Steam.
Aww.
Oh, shocker.
That's what I've been using to display all these games. Yeah. And yeah, I as far as my comments about The Last of Us, I just, well, I guess I didn't really make any comments about it, but it makes sense if you've kind of stayed blind to the game since it came out, and looking forward to playing it on PC here in 2023. That's definitely makes sense. So Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I'm looking forward to. I hope it really builds on Breath of the Wild without just being a like I hope it really builds on the Breath of the Wild format in a lot of ways. Which it looks like it's going to. It looks like they're bringing in some aspects from previous games like the Sky Kingdoms, this sort of Sky Kingdom above from Skyward Sword, that kind of a thing. Bringing in some new stuff. I felt like it's a rare case where you get a direct sequel with the exact same visual style in the Zelda franchise. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh, I hope it's not just more. Well, like when I saw previews and stuff, I was like, I hope it's not just more Breath of the Wild, awesome as Breath of the Wild was. I want something more. And I hope they're able to deliver that, especially if it's still coming out on the Switch. I just hope there aren't a lot of technical limitations with that. But that said, it's very rare that there's a bad Zelda game is a very rare thing. So that's my take on that. Definitely hoping for that. Now I know you guys don't have a Switch, do you? You don't do a ton of Nintendo gaming, so.
No, there's only ever really in a year. There's only ever really like one game that I would play on a Switch.
Yeah.
That I don't have on the PC, and that I actually want to, sit down on a couch and play a game that I would prefer to be playing on my PC whilst doing other things at the same time. It's so rare that happens, and it's so mind-numbing that it's like, Nintendo, I would love to play some of these games on the PC where I could do other things, and their response to this is, no, we don't want you as a customer.
How
dare you multitask?
Okay.
Yeah. I guess they figure then people won't buy their consoles. I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
All right.
I think they've been hurting themselves. I think they could keep your Premiere systems on your Switch. Here's the thing: if you could buy a Switch, and then by buying the Switch you get access to an emulator that you can run on your phone to play the games that'll run on your phone, and that's the cost of it, I probably would buy a Switch.
Yeah, or even release your old stuff on other platforms. Like you want to keep your.
But they don't do that. And they complain about money. It's like one of the biggest like mind-boggling things ever. Like it's like dumbasses behind Bayonetta. It's like, if you released all the old Bayonetta stuff onto on like all the stuff from the previous eras onto like the newer systems or people's like mobile devices, and you could make more than enough money to pay everybody a super gigantic big bonus, and then you wouldn't have people complaining that they're not making enough money, because like, again, people were upset. She lied. She said they only offered her $5,000. Well, they really just offered her, a peak of $1,500, and a low end of $5,000. It's like, do you guys know how to do math at all? Like, a low end is of 15,000 to 5,000 is still 5,000. Like,
Yeah, that's your
the
your
low end.
guaranteed income. That's what you're being
she reported
offered.
on.
Yeah,
because they said 3 to 5 recording sessions at about $2,000 to $3,000 each. Well, that's on a low end. On the low end, that's about $5,000, and on a high end, sure, that's like 15, but that's not much. That's certainly not much considering that, for primary talent of some of this stuff, some of these mid-grade stars are paid, $50,000 for a moderate, character in a video game, because quality is important, but it's not for some people. And yeah, anyways, my mini rant of the day.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this one's not listed yet, but Ghost Runner 2 is supposed. So we're now into games that I don't know, that don't have a definite release date, but these are some that I'm anticipating. I really enjoyed Ghost Runner, and looking forward to the sequel. Lies of P. Looks fantastic. Hopefully it's not a... again, I mean, I guess you can say that about any game. Hope it actually is as fantastic as it looks, but I love the style of it, the steampunk atmosphere. It looks like... it almost looks like a spiritual successor to Dishonored in a lot of ways, and it's got the same aesthetic of Steel Rising, to the point where I got the two mixed up, and for a little while there. But Steel Rising really sucked. It was this empty world. I got so bored playing Steel Rising. This one looks a lot more interesting, and it's some kind of a Pinocchio story. So, action Souls-like, kind of a steampunk world. Looking forward to that one. Black Myth Wukong. I don't know if this one will come up. Also looking, yeah, it's not there, but very much looking forward to that one. And, we should talk about Atomic Heart. But before we do that, because I know
we did chat about Atomic Heart, yes.
Well, that's okay. We can talk about it a bit here. So, but before we do that, what other, I want to know, Moon, do you have any other upcoming games that you're looking forward to in 2023 that we haven't already talked about?
No, we covered pretty much.
In the live chat, let us know if there's any that we haven't mentioned that you're looking forward to. Atomic Heart. All right, Saib, let it rip.
Well, I mean, so Atomic Heart is coming out, and I'm trying not to be, what's the word, pessimistic or overly a downer. What we got in the original trailers was nothing like what we have now.
Yeah, this looks completely different to what I remember. Whoa, that's gruesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's just get to some still.
The game just does not exist as we had originally seen it. Now that's annoying, but I do understand things change, obviously. Times change, projects change.
But war never changes.
But war never changes. But we're not getting the same thing. We're not getting the core idea, and the trailers that we had before, none of those trailers were real games. Those were all vertical slice, on rail, like on a rail thing. There was no option to do anything other than what you saw on the screen. I don't think games like that should be rewarded, because they get sold on a lie. the pre-orders were available like super early, and all that was just like, here's a game we'd like to make. We have very little funding for it. Fund it. But instead of saying that, which is an honest and acceptable thing to do, there are successful Kickstarter games. Instead of doing something like that, what they did is like, oh yeah, there's this game. We've been working on this for a long time, isn't that right, Giorgio? Yes, a long time. Last week, Monday. Long time, yeah, of course. So that's the problem. The studio has had an enormous amount of problems. The scope and overall planning of the game has changed multiple times, and there is a lot of problems rumored about this. I don't want to make anybody go, okay, fine, this is off my list. Please don't do that. All I suggest and all I ask is that you pay close attention to some people playing this game on close to release date, and then giving it a chance based off of what the official reviews from people that you trust show. Don't jump into this thing thinking that and don't expect this thing to be the next big game. Just go into it as medium as you can, expecting problems and hoping for none, because that's the best way to approach every game, is to just go in expecting a lot of problems and hoping to see none. You expect the worst, hope for the best, that kind of thing. I don't want to be super downer about it, but we've not heard good things in the rumor mill, and it is the rumor mill, which means that obviously you can't trust the rumor mill. Not completely. You can go, oh, well, that's not good, and we've been right and wrong about this kind of stuff before, so please, again, take it with a grain of salt as far as like what to expect from people who are downplaying this and people who are trying to upsell this like crazy, because there's a lot of people trying to upsell this like crazy, going, oh yeah, this is the next generation of first person blah blah blah. I guarantee you it's not going to be that. I guarantee you the first person tech is going to be the same first person tech that's been in pretty much every other game in the last 5 years, and I don't think there's going to be anything new. But I don't think that's a bad thing, because again, there's a reason why first-person games are so easy to make and so good to make, is because their popularity has been around for a long time. They're an associated set brand, genre, and overall, it's things that people like. So as long as they pull this off and do it right, then there's no reason to hate on them for it. Obviously, it's a newer studio trying to come up with some newer stuff, and I think that that's a fine thing.
February 20th. I wish it wasn't. But I am. I'm interested in this one.
Yeah, it's really bad timing.
Yeah,
honestly.
Wishing it wasn't coming out so soon after Hogwarts, and in and around so many other things. But I'll probably, if at all possible, I'm going to check this one out. It looks like like an sort of a Fallout-themed Dishonored style gameplay. This is the vibe I'm getting. Or Atom Punk, I guess. I can't tell if this is supposed to be. It doesn't necessarily look post-apocalyptic, but it.
Not like it was promised in the first.
Yeah, it says in a mad and sublime utopian world, take part in explosive encounters. But yeah, so I mean, it looks cool, but again, yeah, it's they know how to make their games look awesome, even if they're very shallow.
Surreal.
So we'll see. I probably will check it out and try to give my impressions on it. Yeah. Game Note says, I always knew that I would have to play Atomic Heart like a year after it came out. Yeah. And that's not a bad way to go. That's not a bad way to go at all. Leave some for later on when there's maybe a dry spell. As content creators, we always want to play them as soon as possible after release. But sometimes that gets sometimes it gets difficult. Rise Against Them says Sons of the Forest, and I've just been looking at this Looks this does look very interesting. Sons of the Forest. So open world survival game where you wind up on some kind of a cannibal infested island. Interesting. Craft, build, struggle to survive alone or with friends in this terrifying new open world survivor horror simulator from the makers of The Forest, if I'm not mistaken. And I do believe The Forest was very well received. So it looks like a newer, bigger game from the people who made that. So that's, I don't know. Does this appeal to Moon? You're kind of into those survival games, right?
Yes, I do like survival, and I do like the surreal artwork in the different environments. Yeah. Very.
It says cannibal infested, but there's clearly like there's some like freaky mutant creatures in this world. Mm-hmm, I like the design of the monsters and stuff that I've seen so far. Oh, you can go zip lining, dude. Nice. Really... Make traps. Nice. I like what I'm seeing. Honestly, I like what I'm seeing. Very cool. And then Rise also says, I haven't heard much about The Day Before. Sounds like a DayZ copy. Now, I know, Saib, you talked quite a bit about The Day Before on Maximum News.
Yeah, a little bit. Mostly about what I wish it was.
The actual day before.
And like what I wish this game was an actual like a week or two time frame. Each like the game just restarts, so sort of like a Fortnite match, but instead of it just lasting like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe it lasts 2 weeks. And you go into the game the day before the zombie apocalypse hits, which means that life is normal. You have to go and show up at your job. If you don't show up at your job, your employer is going to call you and be like, what the hell? Why are you at a job? And maybe it's a situation. Maybe you select from a whole bunch of different situations. Sometimes where, you can take a day off and your boss isn't going to worry. Other places you take a day off and suddenly you don't get your paycheck that's supposed to come out that night, right? And so what you want to do is you want to show up to work. You want to do your work thing. Maybe it's 2 days beforehand, maybe, whatever. Maybe it's like a week before. Then it hits in the middle of the week, and then But you're trying to live a normal life. You can't just go with a bunch of buddies. Go, hey, let's go down to the gun store, steal a whole bunch of guns for the zombie apocalypse because we know that's happening, in a couple of days or tomorrow or whatever. Because if you do that, you're going to get hit by a SWAT team, and then at the worst, you're going to get killed, and at the least, you're going to end up in a jail cell. And if you're in a jail cell when the zombie apocalypse hit, you're basically dead. So, that's my dream zombie game, is having this thing where you can plan with your friends beforehand, and there's a whole bunch of other effects and side effects of the story. Maybe you have some family members that you got to take care of depending on the character you're playing. Maybe you have a crazy sister who's all like, you're not being a prepper in my house, you crazy person, what are you buying these guns for? And then she kicks you out, and then you don't have a home when the whole zombie apocalypse starts, right? Crazy things. And then you have just this enormous, maybe it's an island, maybe it's a map, maybe it's a city or something like that. And you just have to survive for a week before and after the apocalypse hits. And then every time you die, that's it. You're done the game. You start a new game with some new buddies. Most people don't make it past their first day, or their the first day of the virus starting to happen. Yeah, that's the cool side of what I wish this game was. But what this game is it's just the same thing. It's just a zombie survival shooting game. There's no special build up. There's no hey, let's prepare. Let's there's nothing like that. It's just the same zombie survival thing that we've seen in the
it does kind of look like it.
Really, it's not really anything that you haven't played 50,000
but
times
if that's your,
already.
I mean,
And
if that's your favorite type of game, then maybe you like it. But yeah, survive, search abandoned vehicles, houses, survive, crush the infected and other players with realistic weapons, become a legend of the new world, explore beautiful yet dangerous places with stunningly detailed vehicles. Yeah, it's, I'm not really seeing what it's offering that we haven't seen before. It doesn't seem to be innovating on the formula too much.
Yeah. And that's the thing where it's like it just feels the samey. Now, on the developer side of things, this developer is a little shady. And there's been some big problems going on with this developer in the past. At worst, we're afraid that this is just going to be an asset flip, essentially. The game is going to come out, and then they're going to move on to another game. They're not even going to fix glaring, obvious exploits and hacks and stuff like that. So again, with this one, I don't want to be a doomer. I want to just encourage you, please check before you buy this. Do not pre-order. Just please double check. Look at the reviews. Look at people streaming it. Is the game okay? Does it have serious glaring problems? Yeah. And then deal with it from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just looking at their previous games here, they got Prop Night, The Wild 8. Oh, thank you, Rise. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the super chat. Says, first live show in a while, very informative, and it's always nice to discuss upcoming games. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. We're going to be doing this on a weekly basis. We have a little bit, but the schedule was kind of fluid because we did the Game Awards and then we did, what was the other event? Oh, the
holidays.
Well, there was the holidays, plus we did that Baldur's Gate event. So planning this for to do this every Thursday. So we'll see you back next week, I hope. And actually, we do need to wrap up because I have to go get my stupid car that stupidly broke yesterday. A couple days ago, actually. So I have to go pick that up from the mechanic. It's always fun. Having your car break down on Christmas time. Oh my goodness, why am I yawning? Well, glad you found the stream informative. Please do slam that like button if you haven't yet. Really appreciate all of you watching, sticking around, chatting with us. Tell us if you like this format, if you like just the kind of relaxed talk about whatever formula we've been doing here. I remember when we used to do the podcast, I was always like, gotta stay on topic. Maybe you like this better. I don't know. Lots more content coming in the new year. Lots of games to talk about. And we will talk to you. We'll be back live next Thursday. See you later.
See ya.